Local productions seen on Delta College Public Media are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Redford, and this is the follow-up. Coming up on tonight's show, it's been 4 years since the Edenville and Sanford dams breached, devastating communities in Midland and Gladwin counties. One community has an incredible comeback story to tell. The village of Sanford was leveled by the floodwaters as a result of the dams breaking during the height of the pandemic. Now, thanks to a monumental effort by residents, business owners, community leaders, and government officials all working together, Sanford is rising above it all. We'll have 3 special guests in-house to tell their story. But first, we would like to hear from you to help drive the conversation here on the show. You can do that via social media on Facebook. You can email us. You can dial into our follow-up hotline to voice your opinion or suggest future show topics. And if you'd like to watch any of our past shows this season, just log on to deltapublicmedia.org. Well, our guest in-house tonight, very special guest, Dolores Porte. She's been here before, the Sanford Village manager. Nice to have you back.
Thanks, Mike.
Taylor Meyette, he is the fine owner of the Sanford Food Center, 3rd generation family ownership. That's pretty exciting. And Patrick McElgunn wears many hats. He is the director of the Alden B. Dow Center for Creativity and Enterprise. Also own a couple of businesses, right? The Tea Grove.
Yep. Grove Tea Lounge over there in Midland.
Okay, so it's going to talk about a lot today in this rebuild. So we're coming up on the 4 years since the devastation, the dam breach, the floods, the resulting devastation. Not going to focus on that really tonight so much as we are going to talk about the rebuild, rebirth of Sanford Village, the village of Sanford. But I have to take you back to that day 4 years ago, and if you look at sort of the video, and I have to think, do you ever have some days where you reflect on that day or the immediate days after that happened to say, how in the heck are we ever going to come back from this?
Yes, that goes through my mind quite often, but I'm so pleased with the way we've reinvented the village along with the businesses, the parks, and everything that goes with it. So I'm really happy the way things have gone since then. But standing in the mud 4 years ago, nobody knew, how we were going to make it this far.
And Taylor, as the owner of the Sanford Food Center with your family, you had a little bit of a reprieve. You guys were on top of a hill. You had power. You continued to operate. So talk, when you think about what you're seeing there and and the height of that and how you were able to kind of come back from that a little bit.
Yeah, so like you had mentioned, we were luckily up on the hill in Sanford. The water came about to 2 feet to the back of our store. And if it would have went any higher, it would have came into our store. We would have ended up probably like the rest of the village. As of much of Midland probably would have ended up in the same boat. So we were one of the only businesses that were able to stay open during the pandemic and the flood. So when everybody was down volunteering in the village, like Dolores had said, getting their muds wet, their feet wet down there, we're sitting there, making lunches for people, cases of water, whatever we could do to help the community during that time of devastation. We were able to open our doors and do that for the community. So.
Amazing.
Very lucky and fortunate to be able to do that.
So Dolores, I'll come back to you a moment. This has taken a monumental effort over 4 years between your work as the president of the village, government officials, volunteers. Can you wrap it up for us? Who was involved in this sort of rebuild and renewal?
Who was involved? I'd say everybody.
Yeah.
The homeowners, the business owners, the municipal board members, but a lot of the surrounding communities, like Taylor mentioned earlier, came and helped us. And so it's not just the village who came back, but it was all the people that surround us and loved the village and saw what we went through and came and helped us. So it was contractors, it was educational people like Patrick from Northwood that are helping our business owners get stood up. And so it really takes everyone, not just the village actually, but everybody that surrounds the village.
Well, great segue into Patrick, because you are with the Alden B. Dow Center for Creativity and Enterprise, also own the Grove Tea Lounge.
Yep.
And the center kind of is connected to Northwood, right? So talk to us about the work you do there and how it filtered down into the village of Sanford.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been fortunate to be at Northwood now for a little over a year, and in my role, I run what's called the Idea Center, and it's really Northwood's space right in the heart of downtown Midland. Allows us to be a bridge between the community and Northwood campus. And in that role, my primary objective is helping students start, run, and grow small businesses while they're on campus. And there's a lot that happens behind the scenes to bring those things to fruition. But in that role, and with my background as a business owner and previously, even before that, a business consultant, I was approached by the DeVos Graduate School of Business at Northwood by Dr. Fairbairn. She runs a graduate level marketing class that focuses on marketing and strategy. And every spring, they reach out to the community and they pull in, gosh, I mean, we've probably got almost 24 or so businesses from the Great Lakes Bay region, 4 of which are coming from Sanford, which is fantastic, and asked if I'd be involved as a fieldwork advisor. So I help on the practical side of that course, where the students take what they learn in the classroom during the spring semester, and then we actually apply that to these businesses, and the students act as consultants for these local businesses with whatever goals and objectives they might have in mind. Maybe it's an opportunity they want to take advantage of, or it's an issue that they're facing that they're trying to overcome. And throughout this semester that we're a little more than halfway through on, they actually develop strategies and plans and deliver a really nice package with a bow on it for how these businesses can move forward going on from here.
So did you reach out to them? Did you reach out to them, and then it created this organic sort of for business? How did that work?
Well, Mike, I finished my MBA at Northwood about a year and a half
Okay,
ago.
there's a plug for Northwood.
There you go, right?
Well, I also came to Delta, and I went to U of M, and I went to Michigan State. I
Yeah.
have a lot of education, and actually I will make the plug that helped me out quite a bit
Right.
in rebuilding the village.
And some of the development started at Delta too, right? So we
yeah,
can get
yeah.
the plug in
Yeah,
there.
That's right,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
right.
Okay, all right.
yes. Yes.
So-
So Patrick started at Delta.
Right.
I have 2 associate's
Okay.
degrees from Delta, but anyway. So Dr. Fairbairn was leading the MBA program. I was a student there. We talked a number of times about what the MBA program and students could do to help the village rebuild. And so she asked me if I had some businesses that were looking at starting up to see if the MBA students could help. So they've helped with Crazy Vines Winery that opened in the area. They're helping right now with Cozy Cats Cafe. There's a place called Friction Theater that's starting a theater group in Sanford, and some ideas for a bakery and another cafe there, because we went from 3 restaurants to 1 after the flood. So they're helping with 4 different new business ideas and startup ideas just this year alone. But it was my relationship through the MBA program with Dr. Fairbairn that helped get this started.
As you reach out to potential proprietors, business owners, and say, yeah, let's go to the village of Sanford. And by the way, they just had a huge flood and dams breach. And do you get some hesitancy? How do you work them through that process, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. And correct me if I'm wrong, but all 4 of the businesses that we are working with right now, they are Sanford natives. They come from Sanford. They want to reinvest back in their community, right? Much like you and your family continue to do. It's their home, and they come with a lot of passion, a lot of grit, a lot of determination. And from our perspective, from the students, they're just helping provide a little bit of direction and honing in that passion to really help make things work and kind of pull, maybe be the glue a little bit to the ideas that they've got.
That's kind of this new economy. These young people, these millennials, they teach them some skills, let them own their own business, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of growth in that area, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Taylor, you're not just sitting on your laurels with that 3rd generation food center started by your grandfather, right?
Correct.
And your father,
Yes.
you're taking over. You're kind of expanding, enhancing it, something you had planned for a while, or did it come out of this incident that we had 4 years ago? So.
I'd say, if anything, the incident has gave me and maybe my family and our business a lot of determination to come back. You know, we've already been there. We've been there for 50 years, which is pretty incredible in itself. And now to go through the flood, bring our store back better too. So we've done a lot of additions in our store, making our store better for the customers. As Dolores mentioned earlier, we've added a new hot case in the front, expanded a lot of our deli, a lot of to-go options. We're now offering a breakfast in the morning up in the front of our store. So we're making ourselves, for this world that's becoming more fast-paced,
Sure.
we're catering to those needs that the consumer wants.
The Big B drive-through, right?
Yeah, so we have some really exciting things at
Yeah,
the food center.
we talked about we're bringing a corporate thing to Bigby
Right.
into a small village of Sanford. It caused a lot of ruckus. I mean, people were excited. They had a couple delays in the building process. They're in our parking lot at the store, and but oh man, once it opened, people were so excited, and it's been patronized very well. It's done very well out there. We also added a fast car for electric vehicles charging station. We have 2 spots in our parking lot now for electric vehicles. And that brings in a different customer, maybe somebody traveling from the Detroit area up to visit their cabin in Gaylord. They need a spot to stop and charge their car. And the village of Sanford, it brings that customer that would have never stopped out on the highway now into our parking lot, into the village, into the new Bigby, into the new marijuana facility. Just all great things to pull people into our village.
So what's the red tape involved getting an electric charging station? Now, we all agree that we need more of them,
Sure.
but they land in either grocery stores, gas
Yep.
station parking lots. What's it take to get it to where you were? That's
A lot of
that's
phone
quite
calls.
coup.
A lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
Once I got a hold of a firm that wanted to jump on and do it in my parking lot, phone calls with consumers, phone calls with a third party. It took about a year from the first phone call I made from the time that we were charged. I think you were my first charger, Dolores, were you?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. I was the first person to charge my car there.
So that's also went over very well.
Right.
Just bringing that person that would have probably never came into our village into our parking lot now, it's great.
Right.
So.
Through all of this, while some property owners, homeowners had to sort of pick up stakes and kind of pull out, we're not going to go down that path so much. Business owners, by and large, stayed, right? We only had a handful of, some were renters maybe. So where did they go? And not that many really left, which is sort of surprising, right?
Correct. 2 restaurants, Lanny's and the Rail Side, went to Midland and found a space there. And so we, by and large, kept who we had, but we've got a lot of new ones like Samaritan Appliance and McPhillips Architecture. We have an ice cream store coming. We have a yoga and dance studio coming. So we have a lot of new businesses that opened, a lot more than the number of businesses that left.
Okay.
So
Ted, I'm going to go back to you a second because you're on the planning commission too, right?
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know how
sir.
long you've been on the planning commission, for a little while?
Almost 2 years now.
Okay, so what drew you to the planning commission? What have you learned from that? And I'm sure a lot.
Yeah.
Has that been a plus for you to learn, to have that a feather in your cap, to kind of learn a little bit more how you get things done?
Huge. Very, very thankful that you asked me to do that, Dolores, because I had always been invested in real estate and how stuff worked, but learning what being a planning commissioner now, and I have a hands-on of things that are going on in our community. Like, our whole goal as a planning commission is to serve the purpose of the land the best. So we're zoning areas, we're handing out SUPs to businesses, we're developing our village the best that we can and zoning it the best we can to enhance the village the best for the future. We look at, we have a master plan that looks at our future, and we're able to say we could envision the village of Sanford coming back with the lake and being this great thing someday. So it's really helped me a lot. I truly enjoy it. It's great.
So Loris, what have you learned as a village manager through this entire thing? Your experience in kind of getting through some of this red tape. Can you walk us through some of the challenge you had and maybe some of the victories you had, and any advice you may have as you kind of walk people through this a little
the biggest challenge is learning about the federal grants that
Right.
are the FEMA grants that are public assistance. For example, that's to rebuild your park, fix your roads, but then there's FEMA grants that are for hazard mitigation, where we buy homes and businesses out of the flood path so that in the future they're not built there. And the amount of work to apply for those grants and loans and administer it is huge.
Right.
And like Taylor mentioned, also the zoning that goes with the future planning for your village, future businesses that you want there. And in fact, we lost probably 30-some residential properties, so we'd like to see additional housing come back, but not near the floodplain. So looking at land that may be available for homes and then zoning it so that more homes can be built there. and then finding money for housing, because we all know there's a housing shortage, so
Right.
there's money available. So just knowing which programs can support what your objectives are to keep the village growing and moving forward. So I'd say the hardest part is getting funding for things and meeting all the rules and regulations that go with that funding.
So Patrick, let's talk about your business. How long has that been in place? That's sort of been your DNA. What
Yep.
was your vision for it? The Tea Grove, how long has it been around? What was your vision for it? How is it going?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great question. So we've been around now. We just celebrated 5 years back in February. Opened in 2019, had a year under our belt, thought, okay, year 2, here we go. Like, we got data, and like nothing's gonna be new, like we're gonna figure this out. And then COVID hits, and then the flood hits, and,
Sure.
and all of a sudden we're a little bit on the back foot. But ultimately the goal has been and continues to be to create a space for the community to come and gather,
Sure.
to meet, to introduce fun, new, interesting, food and beverage to the community that they otherwise would not get or see, or it might be years down the road before it makes its way over to us. And then find ways to give back and support as much as we can in small ways, like gift cards or baskets for raffles and things like that for schools and other nonprofits, to stepping in when the flood and COVID hit, and provide food and drink to people who have been displaced because of that.
Sure.
And we've really strived to be that, and I think the community has responded well to it. And we've got just amazing customers, amazing community members who we get to just meet and interact with every single day.
And Taylor, that's kind of what you were talking about beforehand. Dolores and I have known each other a long time. There's this spirit of Sanford. It started with Sanford Strong. Now it's been called Sanford Rising, right? Can you kind of give our viewers a little bit of a taste of what that really means? I mean,
Yeah.
that strong sort of title that comes out in a lot of disasters and incidents, and yet this is really, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, so when the flood happened, I think there was maybe some naysayers that were like, oh, what if Sanford doesn't ever come back? But that never crossed my mind. Like, you could just tell by looking in the volunteers' eyes, and the Sanford Rising, that's a thing that Anna Marilette, who also needs to be mentioned, puts on, a great community member who helps a lot with our village. The things that Dolores has done. If we didn't have Dolores, I'm telling you right now, we would not be where we are.
Well, you got a park named after you, so there's
she
something
needs
to that.
a
So
village named
Porte
after
Park,
her for
don't forget
everything
about
that she's done.
Right.
But no, we're going to come back stronger than ever. Not just my business and me being on the planning commission, and but just the community itself. We're all in this together. I don't think there's one person that's doubting this now. So yeah, it's a cool thing to be a part of.
So what keeps you going every day to continue in this role? I think you were telling me you were part of the board maybe 10 years, and village president maybe 6.
Yep.
And thinking, how much longer do I want to do this? But what drives you?
Seeing how happy people are with what we're doing in the village and all the new businesses we're bringing there. And in Porte Park, we had 4 concerts last summer, some really good bands that came there. And like Taylor mentioned, Anna Marilette is a community member, and she puts on Sanford Rising event. She does a great job. In fact, when we open the park back up on May 4th, she has Clydesdales coming from Gladwin that are going to give people rides. We have Lewin coming. So it's just all of the community events that we have that are bringing people together. And in fact, this Friction Theater is a couple that came from Sanford, went to New York, got trained in theater, and they're going to do a Shakespearean play outdoors in Porte Park this summer, like a Renaissance festival. So just having all these community events for a small community like ours and all these new businesses keeps me going. And I go to the park and I see people on the playground equipment and how happy they are, and it keeps me going.
I drove by the ball fields the other day. I've seen the park and drove down there, but it was full, all of them with the kids.
Right.
And I was like, it hit me. I was like, man, we're coming back, man. Like, it's made me feel so good to see all them kids down there.
Sure.
It was just like, man, I miss that, and that's what imagine what that's going to feel like when that water's back,
Sure.
So,
It's 19 acres, the park, I believe.
Yeah.
So what have you sort of added that maybe wasn't there before, and what do you envision for the future there too?
Well, there are additional ball fields, and they were built back tournament grade, I'll call it, and so we can now host tournaments from around the state. And we already have a big tournament scheduled for the weekend of May 17th. We expect 1,000 to 2,000 people to be in town for that weekend. And so it's a tournament style park. We added some t-ball fields, but mainly around the ball games. We already had playgrounds, and we brought those back. Basketball, the horseshoe group will be back. We have a horseshoe club that plays there. We have pavilions. We're gonna have fishing back down by the dam soon. So it's really exciting. There's lots to do there.
210,000, I think, was the price tag, roughly.
Oh, for the park itself was around $4 million.
Around $4 million.
Yeah.
Where did I get 210?
Yeah, 210,000.
That was for the slide.
Well, that's the money we're waiting yet to be reimbursed for part of the
I
park
knew there was
project.
something to that.
Yep.
Okay, so how does that package come together? Is it a little bit of this, a little bit of that? I mean,
Yes, and that's what makes it very complicated. The park was a very, very complicated park, and lots of different funding. So foundations are part of the funding, FEMA public assistance, FEMA hazard mitigation, lots of smaller groups like Kiwanis, Rotary, even a Boy Scout troop gave some of their money to the park. So there's a lot of different funding going into the park and a lot of different moving parts to build the park. In fact, now that people have been down there, they have some suggestions, like we kind of made a miss on the smaller swings, the smaller kids swings, so we're going to replace some of the swings where smaller children can be on it. So we're getting a lot of good feedback from the public on what they need for the future, but we're really excited about how much people are down there using it, like Taylor said. And surrounding communities play ball there, so it's not just for Sanford, it's for a lot of people that surround our village.
So when you kind of pitched this idea to me about this show and talking about the rebuild, the renewal, you kind of said something to the effect that kind of resonated with me, that for other communities that may be going through some sort of a, maybe not a like-minded tragedy, but something where you're kind of devastated and you got to start from the beginning. I hope you're chronicling all of this. You might have a little bit of a playbook on how to deal with the government, how to deal with, I mean, if you got something like that, what do you think of that? That this could be sort of a guidebook, a playbook that you could get out to other communities to say, this is kind of what we did, these are how you cross the T's, dot the I's, this is how you got things done. I don't know.
A lot of it, I can tell you right now, is stuff that you can't teach people. You know, it's just a community building around each other and loving one another and wanting to call them for the same goal of building a village back. You know, you can't teach a lot of that. You can't write it in a book. But if anybody could write a book on it, it's Dolores. I can tell you that.
Maybe you need to. Patrick, I'm going to come to you again. When I talk about the center focuses on these four key areas: family-owned businesses, entrepreneurship, creativity and innovation, new business development. So can you walk through those areas and not only how it impacted maybe Sanford and the success they've had, but is that something you're going to be doing in other communities and other places, or how does that work?
Yeah, you know, it's something that we're already doing in other communities, especially through, right now, the fieldwork program at the DeVos Center. We're across the Great Lakes Bay region, and in some cases we even get connected with alumni or, you know, other graduates or supporters of Northwood, and we kind of go wherever, which is, again, I think, how difficult COVID was, especially during that same time as the flood. I think one positive thing that came out of that was distance doesn't matter quite so much anymore. And we're able to really be in many different communities that don't have to be around us. We love being right here in the Great Lakes Bay region because it's our home, it's where Northwood has been established. We want to support those businesses, those entrepreneurs, and those communities that we're a part of. And then, you know, as far as continuing that work, lots of programming. We have actually some exciting things that are in the works that are coming down, should be starting in the fall through the Idea Center. I can't talk a lot about it at the moment, but it's going to open up a lot more opportunities for Northwood students especially to really get hands-on, to really find the passion and the business that they want to take forward with them while they're on campus and then even beyond, hopefully. And the goal is not to just help them start a business and then send them off and say, okay, you graduated, good luck, wherever you land with it, take it where you want. We want those businesses to stay in the community too, and we want to continue to grow and foster that as much as we can. And then, you know, when I think about Sanford and the businesses that we're working with right there, you know, people talk, you know, being from Midland, people talk about, you know, Midland's a small city, but we have a lot to offer for a small city.
Sure.
What people don't realize is Sanford's the exact same way. there's so much happening in Sanford, and it's such a tight-knit community that rallies around those causes and those individuals. And it has a lot to offer. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of amazing, fun things going on. And I think even more so post-flood as everything continues to rebuild, because people get to be a part of that. People want to be a part of the story of the rebuilding. They want to be invited into that. And I think it creates a lot more excitement around it. And it's fun to be a part of on our end, being able to support those businesses as they continue to fuel that.
Right. In about 25 seconds, what's next for the Sanford Food Center? What do you envision? What's coming up next? EV charging stations, and you had a deli, and you got a big coffee. What's next?
A big thing for us coming up, flowers around the way for our parking lot, which brings in
Love that.
people from all over come into the area. So
Very good.
excited about that.
Been a great conversation. Dolores, Taylor, Patrick, we're going to show a trailer. We're going to come back and wrap things up. And that's our show for tonight. In fact, this is our final show of our 7th season of The Follow-Up. As for next Tuesday night, right here at 8 o'clock, tune into the Cannabis Marijuana on Main Street, an insightful 1-hour documentary produced by my colleagues here at Delta Public Media.
So when you first come into our dispensary, anywhere in the state of Michigan, you have to get your scanned ID to make sure that you're just over 21. We have flower, topicals, concentrates, and edibles.
Our field technicians go to the customers and they collect the samples that are going to be tested as per the state regulations.
There is quite a bit of stringent testing that is required.
It was a decision made by the people. They wanted it, they voted for it. For King County Township, it has been a positive effect on the township. The future of being able to provide jobs in our area, stable employment. They pay decently, the jobs do.
So, is there a place for cannabis? Yes. And is there a risk for cannabis? Yes.
Again, that's next Tuesday night, April 23rd, right here at 8. Thanks for joining us on Follow-Up tonight and all season long. Hope to see you again in the fall for the Follow-Up Season 8. Have a great night.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And make sure to click that bell icon to stay notified when we upload new content. Videos like this are only possible because of viewers like you. To help support this channel, click on the link in the description below. We'll see you next time.